Hey everyone, Mike here from Altona Painting. So in this video I'm going to cover how to do a French door. So we have another video on how to paint regular doors. We're going to have another video on how to paint front doors. But this is definitely going to be one of the worst beasts that you come up against as a painter. Okay, so I've already wiped down the dust that is in all the panes. I've wiped down the door quickly because it was pretty dusty. These doors haven't been painted for an extremely long time, and I know that because of how yellow they are. And when they're this yellow, it's usually a clear indicator that it's oil paint. The house is 40 years old, so I know right off the bat that I need to prime them. I'm going to use the Dulux odorless here. So this is an oil-based primer. Dulux also has another one. It's the Expert Emulsion Primer. It's a hybrid. I very much prefer that one, but I'm unfortunately out, so we're going to roll with the odorless for this video. So I've already wiped all the dust out of all the panes on both sides. I've wiped down the door. I'm just going to quickly give it a scuff. All the crap from the last paint job's got to come out. And there's some drips here at the bottom. You can't really see them in the video. This is my house. I'm renting here, so I'm not going to be too particular, but if I was at a client's house, I'd be a lot more particular. I'd probably sand them with a coarser grit and then sand them with a finer grit, and I'd get rid of those as much as possible. Even sometimes you can skim it with putty just to smooth out the drip, okay? So I'm just gonna give the door a quick sand, get rid of any chipping paint, get rid of any stuff from the last paint job, just to smooth it out as much as possible. Okay, so I'm gonna go around the perimeter of the door. I'm not gonna be super picky in the panes, I'll just be quick about it. Because whoever painted this last did a not so great job. I'll show you how to fix that a little bit afterwards with the scraper and scraping out the paint on the glass. So yeah. Alright everyone, so I've got the door sanded. I've sanded all the face, I've sanded inside the panes. Now, when you're painting a French door, when you're painting any door for that matter, you ideally want to do your best to paint everything at the same time. And keeping a wet edge and making sure that you get a nice crisp finish. So it's a little bit more challenging to do with a French door because it takes a lot of time to cut inside the panes. So what I do, I cut all the panes first, and then after I'm done cutting the panes, then I do the inseam of the door, I do the bottom, then I do around the handle, and then I paint all the way around just to finish it off, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint one pane, and then I'm going to paint, actually yeah, let me just paint one pane for now, and then you'll see it as we go. Okay? So I have a decent amount of paint on the brush here. Just going to get it in the crack first, just get the paint there. The nice thing about painting against the glass is that I'm cutting it nicely here, but what you can do is if you get some paint on the glass, you can just scrape it off when you're done with a special scraper. Okay, so you just want to make sure you get right in the nooks and crannies, okay, because you don't need clients coming up to you afterwards and pointing out all the nooks and crannies you missed. Better to just take time, do the job right the first time. Okay, I usually bill French doors at about an hour per side. For a newer painter, it'll definitely take you that amount of time. If you're a professional, it should take you anywhere between 40 to 50 minutes. The fastest I've ever painted a French door, I time myself at 42 minutes. I might even go a little faster now, because that was a few years ago. I don't paint French doors very often, but yeah, so I'm just gonna paint one more pane here, and then we'll move on to another part in the video. Okay, so you want to get inside the pane first. So I'm cutting inside the pane. And then once I cut inside the pane, I'm just gonna get a little bit more paint on the brush. And then I'm gonna paint the face of the pane. Okay. So I'm gonna stick within the row that I'm working in now. So I'm not gonna start painting all down here, because you know, you're putting the cart before the horse. You wanna just work in the area that you're working in. Okay. So get inside the panes first, and then paint the face. Okay, so what I just did in these two panes, you're gonna continue all the way down the door, and then you would do the cut on the outside, the bottom, around the handle, and then you would paint all the way around the door to finish it off. Okay, so we've painted all the insides of the panes, and we've barely got any paint around the perimeter. The reason this is important is because when you're painting the perimeter, you don't want to be painting stuff that's trying to set, and then you get a bunch of flashing and lap lines, or whatever you want to call it. Either way, you want like a nice clear surface to work with, right? So everything that had to get painted first in the panes is done. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the inseam here first, and then I'm going to cut the around the door handle, and then I'm going to paint around the door. And then you repeat the process for the other side too. So I'm gonna have to switch spots here. So I'm just gonna paint this out. First, you just get your paint on the door. Make sure you don't bleed it onto the other side, so you're gonna get a big fat drip on the other side. Gotta get more paint. Just cutting it so that doesn't bleed on the other side. Now, if the hinges weren't painted previously, don't paint them, please. If the last painter has got paint on them, as you can see, take a picture of that. So if your client comes back to you and says, hey, what the heck is this? You can say that was the last guy's, and you have proof. If the hinges were painted, then paint them. But ideally, you don't want to get paint on the hinges because people notice that, and it's also just sloppy. Not good workmanship. Okay, so the inseam is cut. Now I'm going to paint the perimeter real quick. Now usually I'd be using a 2.5 inch brush. I opted to use a 1 inch brush just because this is the oil primer, and I'm just going to toss the brush when I'm done with it. Okay, so it might take me a little bit longer just because I got to get the same amount of paint with a smaller brush. So you can see I'm painting with my right hand because I'm right-handed, and I'm holding the door handle with my left hand. So this is just to keep the door from constantly rocking back and forth as I work. All right. Alright, so all this drip marks are gone. Alright, and then you would just repeat that, what I just did here, you would just do all the way around the door, and then you're done. Okay, so I'm just going to cut around the door handle here. There's, you know, the expression, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, just like there are 1,000 ways to paint around a door handle. Well, actually there's two. You can take it off and paint it, or you can paint around it. We usually just paint around it unless people ask us to take it off, or if the client is changing out the handles. Okay, so I'm just going to cut that out. You can see the last painters did a pretty bad job. Just cut that out. Spread it out. Okay, and then you would just continue with keeping a wet edge and just working your way down. All right, so we have now painted this door. So as you can see, it's a lot brighter and less dingy looking. So we oil primed it because of the previous oil paint, and then we top coated it with the Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic Semi-Gloss. Looks really good. So now the only thing that's left, the paint is still drying, but what you would do to finish off the door is you would just use the window scraper here. It's meant for scraping paint off floors, meant for scraping paint off tile, windows, interior, exterior, right? So all you would do is you would just go up against the where the paint got on the window, and you just do this for each window pane. Okay, it takes a bit of time, but that's why you price the door as an hour per side, because if it takes you 45 minutes or so to paint it, it's going to take you at least 15 minutes to go around each window pane on each side and do this. Okay, so I'm just getting rid of all the excess paint. Right. And this is what you would do if you were painting a window inside or outside if you got paint on it, okay? So any paint that you still see there, that's on the other side, and the other side's primed. So once we paint it and it's dry, then we'll scrape the windows on the other side. And yeah, that's basically how you paint a French door. All right, so this is what a finished French door should look like. Nice and crisp. Inseam painted, everything done. And we went around and scraped out all the paint that was on the glass and wiped it off. I'd recommend scraping both sides. So you'd scrape this side first, and then you go on the other side and scrape it. Do one window at a time and then wipe it off. And then you can see what you missed. All this stuff here that's still there, that's from the last paint job that's cured on there. Good luck trying to scrape anything that's cured on, interior or exterior. So anyways, that's how you paint a French door. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you learned something new and gained value from that. Feel free to check us out on social media at Altona Painting on Facebook and Instagram to see some of our most recently completed projects. Also, check out our website altonapainting.com to see our full portfolio and learn more about us. If you're in the Greater Toronto area and you're looking for a painter who values quality and professionalism, hit us up. Or if you know someone who is looking for a painter, pass our name along. Lastly, thank you so much for watching, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more instructional painting videos.